Hey guys, in this video I'm going to demonstrate the sparkler Photoshop action. So I'm going to work through 4 different examples of the effect, and in each example I'm going to be covering slightly different techniques, just so you get really familiar with how everything works. So the way the action works is that you create some line art on your photo or text, run the action, and it will convert those lines into a sparkler effect. And by default, the action will cast a light just below wherever you create your line, so you can position that light on the ground. It will also convert your photo from day to night, just so that the effect is a bit more realistic. And with all the layers, it actually gives us the ability to light paint where you want additional light to appear around your photo. So here I've just brushed over the edges of the subject, so you can see the sparklers cross over here and light this part up, and a little bit on the face and legs. So I'll go through all that. Now this is the first example we'll run through. So I'm going to take this photo here, and we're going to use some text just to recreate this. Just going to cover the basic use of the action and what all the layers do. So yeah, this one will be the second example. Okay, and then we're going to move into the third example. We're going to take this photo here. Then I'm going to use this image here. We're going to convert that into line art, and then we're going to take that image into this photo here, and we're going to recreate this. And in the last example, I'm going to take this photo, and we're going to recreate this, and we're going to go a bit more into some light painting. So you can see I've brushed on light around the swing, and just a little bit here and here. So I'll go into all that. So let me just run through a few more examples that I've got of the effects. So here I've just drawn a stick figure, play the action, and that's what I've got. So I just did a little bit of light painting here on the trees, just to extend the light out a little bit here to the right. Alright, let me just close all this down, and let's save that. Where's that? Where's this? Close that. Alright, so I'll put a link to this photo down in the description below. I'll also put a link to this font that I'm going to use in this example. It's a free font, so you can download those 2 things and follow along. So there's a few things we've got to check off just to make sure your file's set up correctly and you don't run into any errors. So firstly, look into your layer panel, and your photo layer should look identical to this. Should say background and have that lock symbol. So for those of you who have opened up a photo and it doesn't look like that, just follow these steps. So I'm just going to just set it up. So let's just pretend I've opened up my photo. It's called layer 1. Just go to layer, new, background from layer, and that will set it correctly as a background. So you only need to do that step if you open up your photo and it doesn't look identical to that. Next, in the layer panel, go to this top right hand corner icon, click on that, and it's dropped off on my screen, but if you scroll down to panel options, and right down the bottom, make sure add copy to copied layers and groups is ticked, click OK. Next, go to image mode, make sure you're in RGB color mode, 8 bits a channel. And next, go to image size, and as always, make sure you're using a high resolution photo. This action you can use anywhere from 1,000 pixels up to 8,000 pixels, doesn't matter. So I'm just going to keep it at this size here. Click OK. So what I need to do now is load the brushes that were included in the download. So if I just hit B anywhere over the canvas here, it'll activate the brush tool. And if I right click, it'll bring up the brush panel. Now I want to replace all these brushes with the ones that were in the download. So if you just click on this icon here, scroll down to replace brushes and select sparkler brushes.abr, and that will just replace all your existing brushes in the panel with the sparkler brushes. So click away from that. Now what I need to do is load up the actions panel. So go to Window, Actions. It'll show up to the side here, and go to this top right hand corner icon and select Load Actions. Select the sparkler.atn file and it will appear here. I'll just close the actions panel for a sec because we've got a few other things to do. Now, what we need to do now is create a new layer. So go to Layer, New Layer, and this must be called Brush, all in lowercase. The action will not work at all if it's not called Brush. So click OK. And so the idea with this action is, with the brush layer selected, you want to start creating some line art or create some text on this layer, and that will be converted into the sparkler effect. So I'm going to create some text for this example. So I'm just going to hit T, activate the text tool. I'm just going to click and type out the word Destiny. I'm going to hit Control T to scale this up. Okay, hit enter. I am going to just position that about there. Okay, the action's pretty much ready to go now. Just one very important thing you want to check before running the action. If you just hit B to activate the brushes again, look up to the top here, make sure that the opacity of your brush is at 100%. So currently mine's at 20%, so if I ran the action, the sparklers would appear really faint, okay, and it wouldn't look that good. So click on this and drag that up to 100. Unfortunately, I can't record in the action changing of brush opacity, so you have to do that manually. So if you run the action and you're thinking, oh, those sparklers are looking a bit too faint, it's probably because your opacity is way down. So turn up to 100, okay, and you're ready to go. So I'm just going to load up the actions panel again. 12, open the sparkler folder, and yeah, there's a few options here. Don't worry about update lighting yet. You use that action after you've run the sparkler action, so I'll get onto that. But the difference between these three is simply the size of the sparklers. Okay, if you've run the action and you think the sparklers are too small or too big, just use a different size here. I'm just going to go for medium, so I'm just going to click play on medium, and the action will take about 15 seconds, so we'll just sit here and wait for it to complete. Okay, I'm just going to collapse the actions panel for a sec. So what I'm going to do is let's go into the layer panel now, and if you want to collapse these two folders quickly, you just hold down Control, Alt or Command Option on the Mac and click on this folder arrow, and that will just collapse the folders. So I'm just going to turn off the lighting folder for a second, and we'll go into the sparkler folder, talk about what's going on here. Actually, before that, I'll turn these both off. If you want to run the action again, you can just shift select the sparkler and the lighting folder, delete them, and you can adjust your text and do whatever. Actually, a tip I'll show you with fonts, if you want to make them thinner, is say I've got this font here, but let's say for a second I want these lines to be much thinner. What you do, you select the brush layer and you hold down Control and you click on it. And so what that does, it turns that into a selection. And so what I want to do is I want to shrink that selection. Okay, I want to cut in further to the text. So go to Select, modify, contract. And you might just need to experiment with some numbers here, but let's try 2. So I'll click OK. And so what that's done, it's contracted the selection. But what you want to do now is you want to apply a mask to that layer. Okay, so just down the bottom here, click on that mask icon. And you'll see that has just shrunk the text a bit, but I reckon we can go thinner. So I'm just going to delete this layer mask, right click, delete layer mask. Let's go again, control click, select, modify, contract. Let's go 4 pixels, apply the mask. That's much thinner. I found the best results really come from, thin fonts, thin lines, so get them as thin as possible. So I'm just going to undo all that and get back to the layers. Alright, so inside the sparkler folder, this layer here in yellow, this is your sparkler effect. Okay, you can move that around, you can Control T or Command T, scale that, rotate it, do what you want. This layer above, change sparkler color. If you double click on that, you can use this hue slider and that will just quickly change the color of the sparkler. You can increase its saturation, drag it down to make it just a white sparkler. Okay, I'm just going to reset that. These two, I'll come back. I'll quickly talk about it. Basically, this one here, if you turn it on, it will apply a single color over your entire design. You can double click on that. Again, it's just a hue and saturation adjustment layer. So you can just move that around, increase saturation. This one here is just to fine tune the colors a bit. So if you double click on this, you can play around with these sliders here. Okay. You can target the midtones, shadows and highlights. So if you want to recolor the shadows, select that. Play around with those sliders. But I'll come back to that. So that's simply the sparkler folder. Okay. So if you wanted the effect with no lighting set up, just turn the lighting folder off. Okay. And you can also export that as a PNG with transparent background if you just turn off the background layer there. Alright, so if we turn on the lighting folder, so by default what the action does, it takes your photo and converts it from day to night, so makes everything a bit dark, and it creates this glow on the ground, okay, and that glow will pretty much be the width of what you've created, and it sort of just spreads it out a little bit as the light sort of falls off. Okay, so let's go inside here. And what I'll do, I'll just turn all these off and we'll talk about them one by one. So the most important layer in the lighting folder is this layer here. It's called main lighting, and I've got in brackets here opacity. So any layer that I have where it's got brackets opacity, I'm basically reminding you to adjust this layer to its opacity. Okay, so I'm just going to turn this on. So that one there pretty much does most of the lighting, and I'll explain to you how it works. So currently the opacity is at 80%, so I'm just going to click on this word opacity, hold and drag to the left. So I've just dragged it to 0, there's 100, 0. So as I start off at 0 and start dragging to the right, it's going to start darkening the background, and you'll see that the glow is starting to appear on the ground. So it's like we're converting from day to night. So you can adjust that to your liking, but just by default it's at 80%. So if you run the action and you're thinking, oh, it's all a bit too dark, then jump to that layer there and just turn down the opacity. So basically, what this layer is, if I just temporarily hide this mask, I'll just hold down Shift and click on it. That'll disable it, and I'll turn this opacity to 100%. So all it is, it's a solid color layer. It's black and not much else. So if you turn it off, it falls back to our original photo. And so the way this mask works is that if I hold down Alt or Option and click on this mask to go inside, you can see wherever we brush black is where we're going to erase this layer. Okay, and by erasing the layer, it's just like essentially hiding it, so we're falling back into the original photo. So wherever you brush, okay, if I just hit B, get the brush tool out and right click, And just in this top left hand corner, I always include a soft brush, which is ideal just for, you know, brushing away on masks. So if you click on that, so if I just flip this over to black, so black's my active color. So if I start brushing now on that mask, all I'm doing is erasing that layer and it's falling back onto our original photo. So by default, the action, I set up this little black area, which is the glow, okay? And so, yeah, that's essentially how it works. If you wanted more light, you know, so I'll make it a bit darker. Say if I wanted the light to extend out further to the left and right, I'll select the mask, hit B, okay? Now I want to grab a white brush, okay, because I want to reveal this layer. Oh, sorry, I need a black brush because I want to hide it. So if I start brushing, you can see how I'm revealing more light. Okay, so but that brush is too strong, so currently the opacity is at 100%. So if I turn this down to say 50%, if you just hit the numbers on the keyboard, look at the top here, you can see that it's adjusting the opacity of the brush. So I'll just hit 40%. If I start brushing there, you can see I can extend the light out a bit. Okay, so that's how you basically light paint with this action. You select the main lighting opacity mask, this mask here, and start brushing away. Okay, and a good technique to get into here is, you know, as you're brushing, say I've brushed this section here, and I'm like, oh, it's a bit too much. I hit X. So if you hit X on the keyboard, it'll flip between black and white. So if I switch to white, I can start brushing that away. X, I can brush it back in. X, brush it away. So I can really fine tune the appearance of the light. Now you can see, you know, I've brushed onto the sides here, but they're blue, whereas the light cast was meant to be orange. So this is where this action here comes in, update lighting, and it's really important actually. So I'm just going to turn all these on for a sec, so it's a bit more obvious what's going on. So you can see I've brushed out to the sides here, but it's not orange, okay? It's just orange here. So every time you brush into this mask, you can see where I've brushed. You know, when you've done a bit of brushing, what you need to do is click on the update lighting action. So if you click on that, it'll just take a couple seconds or a second, and what that'll do, it'll update all these layers here to apply the correct color settings and a few other things. So rather than manually adjusting all these masks, which you would have to do without that action, I've just set it up there. Alright, so let's get back to going through these. So that's the main lighting layer. In the other examples, we'll go through that. We'll be using this a lot more. Okay, so let's just go down to this one here. Desaturate photo opacity. If I click this, turn this on, what this will do is everywhere around where we've brushed on light, everywhere around that area, it's going to desaturate the background. So it's like, you know, as you transition from day to night, you'll lose a lot of color from the light. So what you do here is just adjust the opacity. So it's at 60%. If I turn it to 100%, you'll see that the only color that remains is the color within the light. Everything around it goes black and white. So you can just play around with the opacity of that there. So I'm just going to keep it, I'm going to turn this to about 50%. This layer here, reduce photo highlights, again in opacity. So what this will do, it will look for all the highlights in your photo, and through the opacity here, it will crush down those highlights. Okay, so you can play around with the opacity of that. Kind of works hand in hand with the main lighting. So if you make this a bit darker, you might want to crank this up a bit more. Okay, just to really fine tune the lighting. This layer here, light color tint. If I turn this on, what that'll do, it'll apply a color to the light on the ground. Okay. If you want to change the color, you just double click on this layer here, and you've got all this. You've got this drop down menu here. If you click on that and just scroll down, you can see that a different light will start to appear. on the ground. Okay, or you can just click on this box here and choose a color that way. So say if I wanted a red light, what I would need to do is change the color of our sparkler, because that should be cast in an orange light. So I'm going to go to my sparkler layer, the change sparkler color layer, double click on that, and we're going to use this hue slider to find color that suits, something like that. Okay, I think that's good. Now if you want the to cut the color to be much stronger, just select the light color tint layer and hit Controller Command J, and that'll boost the colors right up. Now this layer here, atmosphere color, if you turn that on, that will apply a single color cast over your entire design. I've just turned that on by default because I've converted your photo from day to night. So, and as it gets darker, it tends to cast a bluish light over everything. So you can turn that on. But if you double click on this box, you can play around with the colors there as well. And lastly, this layer down the bottom here, boost highlights brightness. I'll just turn that back on. So what this layer does, in the area of the light that's been cast, it will look for the brightest points in your photo, and it will try and brighten it up a bit more. So I'm just going to zoom in a bit here. I'll turn this layer on and off. So you can see here it's found, just through this bit of water here, it's found some highlights, and it's just trying to boost that up a bit more. So experiment with turn that on and off, see how it affects the design. But if you want it to be a bit more prominent, double click on this layer. Okay, now it'll bring up the layer style box here. Now if you look at this slider here, underline layer, the two handles you want to play with are these two black ones. So if I drag this one to the left, you'll see that it makes it brighter, the highlight's much brighter. If I drag this one to the left, it should make it even brighter. So you can target the highlights much more through these two handles. Click OK. Alright, so adjust the color. I'm going to go back into this, and I'm just going to play around with the colors a bit. Let's go to the highlights. So I think the use single overall color option works much better when you're using when you're using the lighting for this action. So you can see the difference there. Especially looks really cool if you want to create that kind of nighttime effect. So that is an overview of these layers. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to open up the next example, and we'll go through the motions of just adjusting all the layers and creating a cool design. Alright, so I've got the next example ready to go. So what I need to do now is create my brush layer. So Control Shift N or Command Shift N, that will create a new layer. Brush, click OK. I'm going to hit B, grab my brush tool out. I'm going to right click to bring out the brushes panel. Yep, got the soft brush selected. So I'm going to draw some lines with this action. I'm just going to turn my brush opacity up to 100%. Now I found for the best results to use, like I said, a really thin brush. So as you, if you've got your brush tool open, and if you use the left and right square brackets, that will change the size of your brush. And as you change it, look up to the top left hand corner here, you can see the brush size changing. Found really thin, about 5 pixels to be really good. I'm just going to grab a bright color here so I can see what I'm doing. So I've got my brush layer selected, and I'm just going to start brushing. If you're not happy, just hit Control Z like I'm doing. Let's get something. Alright, let's go. That'll do. Now what I want to do here is, I want the appearance that it's kind of wrapping behind her, then in front of her. So I'm just going to zoom in a bit here. And so to do that, what we need to do is just apply a mask to our brush layer. So I'm going to apply a mask. Okay, and with the mask selected, we need to start brushing black, which will hide our layer. So if I just hit B, right click, got the soft brush, I'm going to hit X to flip to set black as my active color. Now if I start brushing on this layer, you can see that it hides it. So the idea here is that I just want to hide certain parts of this. So I'm just going to start brushing away. Okay, that'll do. Not the greatest, but it'll do for this tutorial. Okay, so what I need to do is just play in action. Let's just go for medium again. I'm just going to play. Okay, I'm going to close the actions panel. So the first thing I'm going to do is move this this ground light here. So you can see, if I move this ground light to the back, it's going to look like the sparkler's way at the back here, but it's doing some weird things like it's highlighting the legs, but also the background, so it kind of doesn't really make any sense. So I'll fix that up. So I'm just going to move this light just down here. Alright, and I'm going to start, or what I'm going to do first, I'm just going to zoom in. I'm going to turn off the lighting folder, and I'm going to select my sparkler mask. So I basically want to just brush away where these sparklers have sort of intersected the body. So I'm just going to hit B, hit X, grab my black brush, and I'm just going to start brushing that away. Whoops. I'll keep that little bit. Okay, that'll do. I'm just going to zoom out. Let's turn the lighting folder back on. So looking at this design, I need to start lightening up some areas of our subject. So you can see the sparkler, it's intersecting here, but it's not making a glow at all. So I'm going to select the main lighting opacity mask. That's where we do all the light painting. Select the mask. I'm going to grab my black brush. Okay, and I'm just going to hit 3 on the keyboard to change the opacity to 30%. I'm just going to start brushing over the areas roughly where the light is hitting. Okay, I'll just illuminate the face a little bit. Okay, so the way I generally like to brush here is I start off with a low opacity and I just brush the areas where the light should be hitting. Okay, and then I'll change it to say 70%. I'll hit 7 on the keyboard, and then I'll brush brighter areas where it should be stronger, like around here. Okay, over here. Okay, so I need to update this lighting now. Currently it's all blue, so I'll just get to the action panel and click update lighting, and you can see that's just corrected all the lighting. And I'm just going to have a look It's looking pretty good. I'm just going to start brushing a bit over the face here. Update that. Okay, I'm just going to duplicate the light color tint layer to see how it looks like with stronger color. I like it how it's a bit more orange on the subject but not on the ground. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to, with the layer I just duplicated, I'm going to select the mask. I'm going to grab a black brush to hide it and select my change my opacity to 90%. It's going to brush that away. So all I'm keeping is this part at the top. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's check out changing the opacity of the lighting a bit. Close that. I think that's looking pretty good. Alright, I think we're done with this one. I'm just going to open up the next example. Okay, got the next example open, and what we're going to do here is I'm going to take this image here, okay, we're going to convert that to line art, and then we are going to import that line art into our design, into our photo, and then run the action to create that. So, firstly, what we need to do is convert this to line art. So what I want to do is just extract the black from this design. So I'm going to go to select color range, and using the eyedropper tool, I'm just going to click anywhere that's black on the photo. Click there, and I'm going to click OK. And so what that's done, it's put a selection around everything that's black. So what I want to do now is extract that basically from the background, from the white background. So if I just scroll down here, click on the mask, what that'll do, it's hidden everything but the black. You can see the mask there. But what I want to do now is apply that layer mask, so it's gone. So if I just right click and click on apply layer mask, it will apply that. Okay, so the white background is gone, that's good. But you know, if I used this photo on the action now, it would be a really intense sparkler, because that is essentially, you know, through the body, that is essentially the thickness of the sparkler, which is way too thick. So I want to convert this to line art. So to do that, you go to filter, stylize, find the edges, and so what that does, it outlines the edges in black. Okay, everywhere else is white. So now what I want to do is extract the white from our design, so all we're left with is black. So similar process, go to select color range. This time I want to click the white. Alright, click on that. So it's selected all our white. Now if I apply a mask now, what that's done, it's kept all the white and it's gotten rid of the black, which is what I don't want. I want to basically invert that selection so it brings back the black. So if I just select the mask, hit Control or Command I, that'll invert it. So now we're just left with the black. So I'll just right click, apply that layer mask. So now we've just got the line art, which is really, you know, it's really suitable for this action. Very thin lines, exactly what we want. So I'm just going to hit Control or Command A to select all, Control C to copy. I'm going to select a photo, Control V to paste it, and it's there. It's really faint, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to double click on this layer, go to color overlay, yep, white will do. So you can see the deer here. Okay, I'm just going to move this down, I'm scaling it. Now I need to name this layer brush, otherwise the action won't work. Brush, that's that. So I'm just going to check my brush opacity, hit B, it's at 90%, I'll turn it to 100. Going to select, let's go just for small, going to play that. Alright, there we go. I'll close that. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to make this this glow on the ground a bit thinner. So I'm just going to select any one of these layers, hit Control or Command T. Okay. Now if I grab this handle here, that'll scale that down. But if I hold down Alt or Option, it'll scale both sides at the one time. So I can make that thinner. I can make that wider if I wanted to. Like that. I'll move it down a bit. Okay, I might just darken the background a bit, so I'm just going to turn up this opacity. I'm going to completely desaturate the background. Alright, I'm going to select my main, I'm going to start doing a bit of light painting, so I'm going to select the mask, the main lighting mask. B, X to flip from white to black, because I want to start brushing light onto this. Okay, so I'm going to hit 2 on the keyboard, grab a low opacity. I'm just going to start brushing out to the sides here a bit, down here, maybe in here a bit. Let's update that lighting. Okay, I'll brush this away a bit. Update that again. Okay, I'm going to duplicate this light color tint layer. If you select a layer and just hold down Alt or Option and drag up, that will create a duplicate. Looking cool. I'm going to, let's just change the colors. Let's change the color of this deer. Let's go like a purple. Okay, I'll double click on the light color tint layer and let's try magenta. Turn this up. Not quite the right color. Let's use the color slider here. That'll do. I'll duplicate this layer. Control or Command J. Color's still not right. I'm just going to undo that and let's try more of a magenta. Control J. That'll do. I'll just change this color slightly to match it. That'll do. I'm just going to quickly check out brushing a really small amount, so 20%, hit 2, grab my black brush. I'm just going to reveal, just like the lights hitting mostly around this area, a bit to the side. Okay, update the lighting. Okay, I'm just going to brush away a little bit here, so grab my white brush. I'm going to double click on the boost highlights brightness and I'm going to play with these two handles here. Okay, looking pretty good. I might just select the mask again. Just going to up the intensity a bit around here. That's better. Alright, I think we're done with this, so I'm going to just compare this against the original. So there's our original photo, and there's with a little bit of work. Alright, let me open up the last example. Alright, so got to open the last example here, and what I'm going to do first is create my brush layer. Control Shift N or Command Shift N, brush, hit enter. I'm going to hit B, grab the soft brush. Going to change the brush size to 5 pixels. Going to turn up my opacities at 20 to 100, and I'm just going to select just a white here. Now I'm going to start drawing some shapes. Let's just draw a circle there. Let's scale it up a bit. I'll draw a little star here, and then maybe a triangle here. Alright, let's play the action. Let's just go for medium. Alright, so I'll just collapse the actions panel. So the first thing I want to do now is change the color of the sparkler. So I'm just going to select the change sparkler color, and we're going to go for a green, like that. I also need to change the color of the light cast here. So I'm going to go to my light color tint layer, and we'll select a green, and I'm going to turn up the density. Okay, that's looking good. So looking at this, this circle should really be casting a light on the swing, and these two shapes should also be casting a little bit of light on these pillars. So we're going to have to work on a bit of, do a little bit of light painting here. So I'm going to select my main lighting mask layer. I'm going to grab a black brush. Okay, and you know, looking at this swing, it should be a bit brighter here as the sparkler gets closer to it, and the light should sort of fade away a bit. So what I'm going to do first is, hit B. I'm going to adjust the size here using the left square bracket. I'm going to hit 2 on the keyboard, start off with a really light brush, and I'm just going to start brushing away here. Okay, now I'm going to hit 1 on the keyboard, so we're using a softer brush again, so the light sort of just fades away. Okay, so you can see that I've gone over the swing a bit, so I'm just going to hit X to get the white brush. I'm going to hit 8, so it's 80% opacity, and brush that away. Okay, I'm going to update this lighting. Okay, that'll do for today's tutorial, but you can spend as much time as you want trying to create a really smooth light. I can see the light sort of gone over the edge of the swing here, so I'm going to grab my white brush and just brush that away. Okay, that'll do. Now I need to brush on a bit of light onto these ropes here. Okay, I'm going to grab my black brush, 30% opacity, and I'm just going to brush down. It's probably a bit too strong. 20%. Brush down here. Okay, I'm just going to update the lighting. Alright, I'm just going to zoom out a bit. Now, I can see that the light here is cut off pretty abruptly, so I want to make that a bit smoother. So I'm just going to grab the white brush. I'm going to make my brush much bigger. I'm going to change the opacity to 60%, and I'm just going to brush a bit there so that the light tapers off. Okay, just update the lighting. And so another little tip here, if I wanted to make all this area here much brighter, okay, without having to brush over everything, what you can do is select the mask here, and I'm just going to grab my pen tool, so I just hit P on the keyboard, grab the pen tool, and I can just click around that area. Okay, and that'll, when I've closed that off, just hit Enter, and make a selection around that. Okay, so with the mask selected, if I just hold down Control Alt L or Command Option L, that'll bring up the levels. Okay, reset that. Now the idea here is if you bring this left one in to the right, it will make that area within our selection brighter. So you can see that there. Okay, and the opposite, if I drag this one in to the left, it will make it darker. So if you want to add it, if you wanted to make it more contrasted, I could bring this one in a bit, and then bring this one in a bit. Okay. Okay, something like that. It's too bright on this little bit of rope here, so I'm just going to hit B, grab the white brush, hit 3, 30% opacity. I'm just going to brush a little bit over that. 20% opacity, it's going to brush a bit over that. Let's update this lighting. Okay, that'll do. So what I want to do now is add a little bit of glow on these pillars. So I'm just going to zoom in, see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to grab a black brush at 40% opacity, and I'm just going to brush, undo that, brush a bit here, over here, I'm just going to brush a bit. Hit Control 0 or Command 0 to fit your design to screen. Now I'm going to update this lighting. Okay, now that's far too strong. So what I can do here is just grab my white brush again, and at 50% opacity I'm just going to brush over the entire thing like that, and update the lighting. Okay, it's probably a bit too soft. I might be able to just create a selection around this. Control Alt L or Command Option L. Let's see what we can do here. Just make that a bit brighter. Okay, it's like that. Got the levels. Go a bit brighter. Alright, looking pretty cool. I think I prefer the green. Alright, so I'll compare that against the original. There's the original photo. And that's what's possible with the sparkle action. So that's it. So as you can see, the key here is really with the light painting to bring out a bit more realism with this effect. So yeah, the key is to use this main lighting mask, brush black to paint on light, brushing white will hide it, okay? And every time you've done, a few brushes here and there into the mask, click on the update lighting. That'll just correct all the colors and do a few other little things to correct everything. And just experiment with the opacity of all these layers here. So one thing I didn't try here was the boost highlights brightness, so I'll just double click on that. Okay, and I'm just going to drag this handle to the left. So all I'm doing here is targeting the brightest points in the areas that are glowing and making them a bit brighter. That's cool. Alright, and just experiment. So I could duplicate this, make that a bit stronger. Does it need it? Probably not. Play around with the opacity of all these layers, adjust the lighting how you want, and don't forget to jump to this layer afterwards, this adjust color layer, and play around with the colors here. I might just do that now. Okay, that'll do. There's one more thing I've actually forgotten to show you, and it's how to apply two different color sparklers into the one design. So let me just set that up now and I'll go through that. So in this last example, what I want to try and achieve here is I want blue sparkles coming out of this phone and orange sparkles coming out of this phone, and the light that's emitted on this side to blue and this side orange. So all I've done so far is create some lines around the phone. So I'm just going to play the action, wait till that's done. Okay, close that. So what we need to do here is we have our sparkle layer and we need to split that up. Okay, so currently the sparkles, both of them are on one layer, so we need to split them into two. So the way to do this is if you select the mask, okay, and if you hold down Control I or Command I to invert that mask, it'll hide everything. It's flipped it to black. So now I've got no sparkles. So the idea here is that you want to brush on I want to brush on these sparkles here first, okay? So I'll just reveal these sparkles. So all I'm doing is brushing white onto that mask, okay, to reveal it. And so now I need another sparkle layer for this one here. So if I just hold down Shift to select the change sparkle color and the sparkler layer, and hold down Alt or Option drag down, creates a copy, okay? And I want to do the same here. I want to fill this mask in black to hide it, and I just want to brush on it where I want this sparkle to appear. So around here and up there. Okay, so now what I can do is for this one, I could rename this one Sparkle Right, Sparkle Left. Okay, so Sparkle Right, I can just change the color. So we can go to a blue, and this one here, a bit more of a red. Okay, so now the next dilemma is the lighting. Alright, so currently we've got the light color tints. I'll just duplicate that. So all it's done so far is cast the light down here, the default light on the ground. So if I start now brushing to reveal more lights, so if I start brushing away here, there and here, okay, and if I duplicate the light color tint layer, so what I need to do first is I'll run the update lighting, just so it updates all the colors. So what we can see it's happening here, it's casting the one color over all the areas that we've brushed on, all the light. So we need to do a similar thing, we need to split this up. Now one thing to know about the update lighting action, it will only update, when you play it, it will only update these layers here, okay? So if I duplicated this one, okay, light color tint layer, and I'll fill this, I'll just hide it for a second. If I now run the update lighting action, it'll update all those layers except for the one we just duplicated, because the way I've recorded it, it takes no notice of any other layers that's been created. So what we can do here is firstly change the color of the lights. So I'm just going to focus on the blue phone here. So I'll go to a cooling filter, change that to blue. Okay. Now what I want to do is brush away. What I want to do first, I'll fill that mask in completely black, okay, to hide it. And I'm just going to brush on where I want that blue to appear. So down here, up here. So now what I've got is this one photo filter layer where I can change the color of the glow, basically where I brush on with the mask. And so what I can do with this one, okay, I can now brush on this side, where I want this glow to appear. Okay, I'll duplicate that over and over so you can see. Very faint, but if I just change the color just to show you, you can see that is now changing the glow on that side. Okay, so let's go to a warming filter. So now I can change this to light, light left and light right. So now I can change all these together. So sparkle right, let's change this to like a purple. I can go down to my light right and change this to magenta. Okay, and on the left I can change this to a green, and the light left I can change this to green. So that is how you can split up the sparkler colours and the glow colours. Alright, so that is it. I hope you have fun using the effect, and I'm sure there's other creative ways you can think of applying these effects to your designs. If you have any troubles with it, just either check back on this tutorial or send me an email and I'll help you out. If not, have a lot of fun using it. Thanks.